I'm going to show you how to give a face reptile skin and alien color eyes. For your convenience, I provided this image of a woman's face and an image of reptile scale texture. Their links are in my video's description or project files. Feel free to use another photo of a face or texture if you like. The first step is to create a displacement map of the face that we'll use to warp the texture around the face. To do this, make a copy of the face layer by pressing Ctrl or Command J. Desaturate it by pressing Ctrl or Command Shift U. Displacement maps look best when they're blurred, so go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Let's blur it 12 pixels. If you're using another photo whose resolution is not 150 pixels per inch, feel free to adjust its blur until your photo looks like mine. Go to File and save a copy. Save it to your desktop for quick access and name it Displacement Map. Save it as a PSD file and click Save. If you see this window, just click OK. Now that we saved it to our desktop, we can delete the layer by pressing the Delete key on our keyboard. Open the texture image. To place it onto the face, press Ctrl or Command A to select it, and Ctrl or Command C to copy it. Open the face, and press Ctrl or Command V to paste the texture onto it. Before we apply the displacement map to the texture, we need to ensure that the texture is the same size as our subject. Now in our case, I made sure both images are the same. However, if you're using a different texture or subject, press Ctrl or Command T to open your transform tool and go to a corner. Press and hold Alt or Option as you drag it in or out, just enough to cover the subject image. Then press Enter or Return, or click the check mark at the top. Press Ctrl or Command A to select it, and go to Image and Crop. Then deselect it by pressing Ctrl or Command D. We'll convert it into a smart object so we can modify it non-destructively. To do this, click the icon at the upper right corner of the Layers panel and click Convert to Smart Object. Go to Filter, Distort, and Displace. I'll displace it 30 pixels for its horizontal and vertical scales. However, feel free to adjust it if you're using a different subject or texture. Tick Stretch to Fit and repeat edge pixels. Click the displacement map PSD file you saved earlier and click Open. Notice our texture is now warped based on the luminosity values of the displacement map of the face. Hide the texture and make our subject active. Open your brush tool and brush picker. We'll adjust the size in a moment. Pick a soft, round brush and make the hardness 0% and the opacity and flow 100%. We'll brush in a quick mask which we'll use to confine the reptile texture to the face by pressing Q on our keyboard and making sure your foreground and background colors are black and white respectively. If they aren't, press D. If they're inverted, press X. To make your brush bigger or smaller, make sure your caps lock key is off and press the right or left bracket key on your keyboard. Brush over the skin. For now, it could be loose. Press Q to convert it into a selection, and invert the selection by pressing Ctrl or Command Shift I. Press Q to see the inverted selection as a quick mask. Start refining it by adjusting the size of your brush, and brush along the outside edges of the skin. To remove areas of the quick mask, press X to brush in white, and then brush over areas of the quick mask you want to remove. Brush inside the eyes and mouth if it's open. Press Q to make it into a selection. make the texture layer visible and active. Click the layer mask icon to make a layer mask of the selection next to the texture. Change the blend mode to multiply. We'll bring out more detail on the shadows of the face by making the texture active and going to Image, Adjustments, and Shadows Highlights. Drag the shadows all the way to 100% and click OK. Make the layer mask active. With your brush tool still active, reduce its opacity to approximately 50%. Adjust your brush's size and brush over the edges of the skin that are missing the reptile texture. Feel free to adjust the brush's opacity and size to blend in the texture as best you can. If you want to brighten the overall face, make a composite snapshot by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E on Windows or Command-Option-Shift-E on a Mac. We'll copy the layer mask onto the composite snapshot by going to the layer mask and pressing and holding Alt or Option as we drag a copy of it next to the composite snapshot. So now, when we brighten our subject, it'll be confined to the white area of the layer mask. Open the Dodge tool and Brush Picker. Pick a soft, round brush. For this image, let's make its size 1400 pixels. The hardness is 0%. The range is mid-tones, and the exposure is 100%. Go to the center of the face and click once. If you want to make the mid-tones a bit brighter, reduce the brush's opacity and click again. Next, we'll change the eye color. Open the Brush tool and press Q to brush in a quick mask. Brush over the irises. Press Q again to convert it into a selection, and then invert the selection. Click the adjustment layer icon and click Hue Saturation. Check Colorize and drag the hue to a color you like. To increase its intensity, slide the saturation. We'll desaturate the highlights in the pupils by making the layer mask of the eyes active and brushing over the pupils. This is Marty from Blue Lightning TV. Thanks for watching.